r/AskReddit. Who is the most overrated person in history? Waldo. Why should anyone even care to search for him? He's done nothing. The fact that he's always hiding is probably because he's done something wrong. Plus that ducker only has one shirt. Till Waldo is just a wandering homeless man. Henry VIII. Let's be honest, all he did was strong arm the church so he could marry another woman, the fat greedy sod. Ioannis Metaxas. He was the leader of Greece from 1936 to 1941. Most famous for not surrendering to fascist Italy during World War II. The only problem is that Metaxas was a fascist dictator himself. Yes, but he was our fascist dictator. Guy Fawkes. He was a minor cog in a conspiracy that he didn't even know all that much about. He was tasked with a dead simple objective, and he failed. He gave up the names of all the co-conspirators that he knew about, but most of them operated on a much higher level than this chump, so they got off mostly scot-free. He had one job and he ducked up 3. Basically, he doesn't deserve the pages that his story is written on in history books. I'm gonna have to go with Hitler. His paintings really weren't that great. Hitler could have become a great flower painter, but he chose the easy path. Ken M. Henry Ford. In business, engineering, and manufacturing, he's revered like a god. Professors like to gloss over his overwhelming anti-Semitism. Ford wrote and published a wildly anti-Semitic newspaper, which was spread around the Ford Motors facilities. Those papers were republished in Germany and became incredibly popular with the Third Reich. Heinrich Himmler described Ford as one of our most valuable, important, and witty fighters. Hitler praised Ford in Mein Kampf and referred to Ford as an inspiration. The admiration went both ways, because Ford was a Nazi sympathizer to the highest degree, hosting Hitler's representatives in his home and hobnobbing with Nazi officers. On his 75th birthday, he was awarded the Grand Cross of the German Eagle, the highest medal Nazi Germany could bestow on an American. But all anyone cares about are his effing assembly lines, which he didn't even invent. The assembly line idea actually came from ransom eols. Tutankhamun, or King Tut as he is sometimes referred. He was a boy pharaoh that only reached the age of maybe 18, born from incest and suffered scoliosis, a bad foot, walked with a cane, and contracted malaria, and likely died from an infection from a broken leg. Also, when he came to power, married his sister and had 2 miscarriages. This poor boy had lots of power, but was sick all his life, and likely his advisors made all decisions for him and eventually succeeded him. Also had a very short reign that ended with Egypt at war. They would lose under his successor. The reason we care so much about him is because of his incredibly well-preserved tomb. And it was only so well preserved because he was such a minor pharaoh that everyone forgot where his tomb was, and another pharaoh built on top of it, concealing the entrance. Ted Bundy. People claim that in terms of serial killers he had high intelligence. He didn't. He dropped out of law school because he couldn't keep up with his peers, so he was of average intelligence. He's just being compared with other serial killers who overall skew lower in terms of IQ. And no, his crimes weren't clever. He broke into the basement of a sorority house and bludgeoned 2 girls to death with a log from the fireplace while they were sleeping. The only reason he wasn't caught sooner was because the detectives working on the case were idiots and ignored multiple credible reports from Bundy's ex-wife. Stop romanticizing the guy. Outside of how nasty it is to hype up freaking serial killers, he, like all serial killers, was a gigantic turd sandwich. He wasn't smart, and his crimes weren't elegant or super planned out 4D chess murders. Don't believe the stupid dumb Netflix movie. Oh, and he admitted that after he tossed the bodies into a field because they were too badly decomposed to keep them in his house, he'd still go out there and sleep with them despite the fact that they were rotting and likely full of maggots and etc. Dude was sick. People need to stop romanticizing crime. Erwin Schrödinger. He is both overrated and underrated simultaneously. As for Heisenberg, I'm still uncertain. I'd say Einstein is relatively fairly rated. 6'9". He doesn't need that much attention. Walt Disney. One of the big reasons why copyright laws are so screwed up nowadays, which is ironic since most of his ideas were taken from the public domain. Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Little Mermaid, just to name a few. Hell, he didn't even come up with Mickey Mouse. It was one of his animators who came up with the idea. Basically a rip-off of Max Fleischer, who was better at marketing himself. Christopher Columbus. In America, we have a holiday named for him, and kids learn about him in school, but he for one, didn't even discover America. He landed in the Caribbean, and also treated natives like sheet. Also, it's a common myth that he was the one who proved Earth was round, but in the late 1400s it was pretty well established that Earth was round, and Columbus just wanted to see if he could sail around the world to get to India. The reason people were skeptical about his journey at the time was because they thought he and his crew would starve before getting to India, and if the New World wasn't there, they indeed would have. Jack the Ripper. He killed 5 people. Elizabeth Bathory killed more than 200. YouTube needs like James Charles, Tatty, etc. Why do they have like 15 million subs when all the content they make is straight booty? Why would you even watch their content? Straight booty? That's his favorite kind. Dr. Seuss. Or if you don't know his real name, Theodore Seuss Geisel. The man who molded our childhood with stories such as One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, Green Eggs and Ham, and Cat in the Hat, was actually quite the bastard in person. He spent 13 years cheating on his wife with a mistress, and when his wife killed herself in despair over how he didn't love her anymore, Theodore didn't even bat an eye or acknowledge her death, and moved on to marry the mistress he was committing adultery with. He was heartless, cold, and calculating. The only reason he's so loved is that his legacy is centered around his famous, catchy children's books, and the monumental steps he made for children's literature. No one wants to tell their child that the nice man who made Horton was actually a cheating, two-faced piece of shit. Edit. I forgot to mention he was super racist, and actually hated kids. It has to be Winston Churchill. He is remembered as a great English hero who not only saved Britain but also played a key role in saving the democratic forces across the globe. But he was a mass murderer too. Some of his direct orders caused death of more than 3 million Indians in Bengal famine of 1941 to 1943. Churchill once reasoned to a telegram sent by British Indian government that if people are perishing in the famine was to ask why Gandhi hadn't died yet. He ordered the diversion of food from starving Indians to already well-supplied British soldiers and stockpiles in Britain and elsewhere in Europe, including Greece and Yugoslavia. Some of India's grain was also exported to Ceylon. The shipment of Australian wheat sailed past Indian cities, where the bodies of those who had died of starvation littered the streets, to depots in the Mediterranean and the Balkans. British government turned down American and Canadian offer to supply food grains to India. At that time British government paid inflated prices in the open market to ensure supplies, and thus the many Indians were not able to buy grains at higher price. Some of the words he used for Indians during this crisis were, "I hate Indians. They are a beastly people with a beastly religion. The famine was their own fault for breeding like rabbits." Churchill signed Atlantic Charter with American President Roosevelt to save democracy, but at the same time Britain was ruling over vast empires. Churchill said that Atlantic Charter doesn't apply to British colonies. If Hitler killed 6 million Jews and Stalin killed 2-3 million Soviets, then Churchill also killed 3 million Indians. Serena Williams, don't get me wrong, she's an incredibly tennis player, but after the cheating scandal, I don't think she received enough backlash. She blamed men for falsely accusing her of cheating because she's a minority, but it came out that she indeed was cheating. To protect herself from criticism, she painted the picture that if you hate on her then you're a racist bigot. That poor other player Osaka, who did nothing wrong but received so much backlash that she actually apologized for winning. Duck Serena Williams for doing that. She cheated. Everybody saw it, but she went ahead and threw a tantrum about it because it's bad for her image. Keanu Reeves. JK. Not overrated. He's legit. Even though you're joking, how dare you. That's your daily dose of the Reddit medic. Remember to subscribe for daily videos. Like for 1 week of good luck. This is the Reddit medic. It's a goddamn pandemic. Sub for daily videos. And don't forget to spread it. I'm AskReddit. Peace.